Could this be my endgame headphones? Audio-Technica sent in their latest flagship open-back headphones for me to try, and it seriously made me consider selling all my other headphones. ATH-ADX7000, let's talk about it. Welcome to Project Beats. My name is Joven. Just a quick one, help me out by hitting subscribe, really helps a lot. Also, big thanks to Audio-Technica SEA for loaning me the new flagship ATH-ADX7000. Not a sponsored video, so all thoughts and opinions are my own. By the way, if you're new, I'm a studio guy, not much of an audiophile, so this will be from my POV. Now, you might be wondering, why an audiophile headphone? First, there is a growing number of engineers who spend more time on the road than the studio and need to rely on headphones most of the time. Some of them working with big clients, big projects and all that. Second, at least in my observation, there is a movement from the audiophile space looking for that full sound but neutral and analytical. So we see a lot more headphones like these being released. If you look back, hi-fi and studio were basically the same thing before. Hi-fi literally meant high fidelity, true to the source or transparent. So it's great to see these two worlds are meeting again. To me, personally, as much as I want to get that full experience on speakers, is not really an option for me at the moment physically. So the solution, high-end headphones. You get more quality with your money on headphones versus similarly priced reference monitors anyway. With that out of the way, let's begin with the design. I'll just go over the things I like. Solid build, initially concerned with the headband design, but having used it now for about 2 weeks, I can honestly say they are comfortable on the head, not to mention really lightweight. Everything screams premium and really well made. The new driver design, they call it high concentricity dynamic transducer. So fancy custom dynamic driver. But the way they built it is meant to compete with planar performance, minus the weight. Super light on the head, no fatigue at all. The baffle design here is similar to the reference line, R30, R50, R70X, sitting on this translucent piece of material, literally open back, as open as it can get. See the driver right there. That's it. That small mesh grill, that's all protecting that driver right there. That translucent driver, if you run your hand opposite way, you can see your hand right there. I guess that's a cool design right there. The cable, I'll mention this now. Let me get the cable. Despite the really cool, really handsome cable that it is, it's one of the two cons I found. When listening to softer music especially, I can hear the cable when I move my head. When it rubs against itself, your arm, your chair, your shirt, you will hear it. If you're an audiophile, high chance you will change that cable right away. But at this price point, I would rather see a braided copper cable. I hope that change in the future release.
I'd start by saying that it was an incredible experience to try a headphone of this caliber. The craftsmanship that people of Audio-Technica Japan put into creating such a remarkable headphone is really impressive. This is the most open-sounding open-back headphone I've ever tried. It feels like it disappears on my head, letting me focus more on the music. However, I did feel that I needed a few minutes of listening before I fully appreciate what this headphone has to offer. With the velour pads, the ADX7000 sounds neutral and organic to me. It's not overly analytical, instead it gives a more cohesive listening experience. The bass is delicate and yet present, and also not imposing. It provides a punch that is purposeful, and it has a sub-bass that sings beautifully. What I mean is that it's relaxed and felt and never trying too hard to impress. The mids are neutral with clear vocals, though not as intimate as some other hi-fi headphones. But this will change later when switching from velour to velvet pads. The highs aren't harsh or piercing, it's just smooth and pleasing to the ears. The velvet pads feel a bit more isolating, which results in better instrument separation. Vocals become more intimate and overall the sound becomes more analytical. This setup is great for critical listening or for mixing and mastering tracks. To compare the two pad types, velvet pads feel like you're on stage with the band or the orchestra, depending on what you're listening to. And then the velour pads feel more like you're in the audience in a good concert hall. This headphone works well with or without EQ. However, for tracks like Microaggression by Animals as Leaders, I'd suggest adding a slight EQ to make the presentation more cohesive. So that's my take on the Audio-Technica ATH-ADX7000.
First impressions, initial listen, I like it a lot. I did spend time to burn it in a little bit. No scientific process, just long hours on my reference tracks. It really opened up the top end more. Because the first time it was a bit veiled on the top, but the rest is really the sweet spot for me. The pads, it comes with two pads, velvet and velour or suede, however you want to call it. Swapping pads is really hard. If you're going to try this for the first time at least, here's my tip. This is the velour pad or suede velour. So this part needs to be stretched. I did spend a bit of time to stretch that out. What you will do, I won't try it now because it's really hard. So you will hook the half circle of it inside. With the other hand, grip it tight. Let's say this is the one you're changing. With the other hand, grip tight. And then you will pull and insert the rest. Takes a bit of time, but that's how I did it when I switched the pads. Suede pads to me has a better air and sparkle on the top end. It felt even more open. I like the suede on my head. I prefer the treble response. It feels more even somehow. The velvet physically felt nicer against my head. More plush, a tiny bit more warm. Character-wise, it is more enveloping, more intimate, and a bit more detailed. For me, I would go for velvet pads most of the time for studio use case, of course. I like the forward mids and the clear top end. By the way, the DAC I'm using is the RME ADI2 FSR Black, and the Mojo 2 sounds really good on both. But of course, a tiny bit more analytical and more open on the ADI2. Now for the low end, this bro got slam. It's got beef, but like Wagyu beef. You know, because this bro is refined, lush, fast, and has that great energy without being overbearing. It's a refined dynamic driver after all, so you can expect transients in the low end are clear and lively, has that punch on the kicks, bass guitar thumps, pops, and attacks. Also, soft thuds are 3D-like and immersive. It gets you that chest-hitting low-end type of feel. Cinematic is the word that keeps popping in my head. I know physically impossible, but that's what it reminds me of. The low-end competes toe-to-toe with the LCD-X, which in my opinion is best in class. Sometimes it even goes more full, but of course without getting tiring. You get that full sound, but you don't get lost in all that bass. You can easily pick apart what's happening there. As for EQ, I can confidently say I don't need to apply EQ correction for the ADX7000 at all for critical mix and master. Maybe if you really want to bring up the 3K, around 1 to 1.5 dB max, if you want to go microscopic. But basically no correction needed, which, believe it or not, rare on headphones, especially for studio use. There are a few that is ready mixed, no correction needed, but again, very few. As I mentioned before, the dynamic driver here is no slouch. I tried it on my most busy reference tracks, Microaggressions by Animals as Leaders. Weaker headphones with dynamic drivers will blend that low end on that track in a mush. And I initially thought it might be the same because that stigma with dynamic driver, but this headphone be like, excuse me, sir. And of course, rightly so, the ADX7000 did very well on the low end on that track. You won't get lost in that mix, and you can easily tell apart what's happening there on the low end. Top end, I feel audiophiles will want more air, more stabby. I'm just kidding. I mean a bit more sparkle there. But I am sold with the top end here. It gives me what I need to know. It's not dull or blanketed. Just right. As far as soundstage, I like the soundstage of this thing just right. Some headphones like the HE600 Hi-Fi-Man or the ZMF Caldera would have a bit too much. I understand those are unicorns that people look for in an open back headphone. Again, as I mentioned, my play or fun headphones is still in the realm of neutral. My issue with wide stage headphone is the details that I need to hear. They go way further back, and I struggle to grab onto details. The ADX7000 is immersive but clear. Presentation is lifelike. It's neutral to my ears. Intimate tracks shine here. It is somewhat magic if I want to go pointless descriptive. But seriously, it plays soft dynamic tracks really well. Again, lifelike, as well as busy and pumping tracks. For low volume listening, all details are intact. Same presentation, whether soft or loud. No recessed or hype frequencies for that matter, even at low volume. Lows are still punchy, mids present and engaging, but not glaring. To me, hits the sweet spot. Now against the LCD-5, which is probably the more fair comparison, I was actually looking at the LCD-5 for an upgrade before the ADX7000 launched. I was willing to go LCD-5 than getting MM500. I was looking at the used market, of course, and the just sold out Black Friday B stock. It was something I felt I could live with as an upgrade. It's a great headphone, very articulate, high-level microscopic, but again, to me, slightly feels like it's on a permanent microscope mode all the time. It's like when you ask a bunch of kids to tell you their story and they all tell it at the same time. I couldn't think of a better example, but the LCD-5 will bully your tracks if they are mixed bad. And I get it, they are really good. The ADX7000 is a very diplomatic guy. It will tell you as it is and won't miss any details at all. It just tells you this track is too dark, that is too veiled, but wouldn't make a big deal out of it. I prefer the ADX7000's narrative, a well-narrated story that is engaging and detailed, rather than listening to multiple stories sounding at the same time. After spending some time with it, I really prefer this more, and very sad I have to return this in a couple days. Going back to the LCD-X, what I realize is the ADX7000 solves a lot of my issue with the LCD-X. Weight is one thing, but the ADX7000 is more revealing, better mids, and then when I go back and forth with the LCD-X, that sort of becomes the more hi-fi music enjoyment headphones in comparison. ADX7000 feels to me like a more competent and more refined version of the LCD-X in most, if not all aspects. I couldn't bring myself to spend more for the MM500. It is on the nasally side to my ears. Also, I have a bigger head, so it's uncomfortably tight. It is too midi for my taste, too strong of a upper mid-range. I'd rather the LCD-X than the MM500 if I'm honest. Of course, hot take. Price-wise, I know without context, it is a lot, but consider this. If you are looking at mastering speakers, say ATC full-range speakers would cost you about 15K here in Singapore. Key 3, that's 24K. PMC 16K and so on. In that sense, of course, would make the ADX7000 look affordable. Having this level of quality in a package that fits in a backpack is insane. It reminds me a lot of the Wilson Audio Sabrina 5 speakers in terms of presentation. A nice balance of beautiful presentation and detail retrieval. In my time of testing, I found two cons. Once the cable, for the life of me, I don't understand the decision behind that. That cable needs to go. And second, my broke bum can't afford it. At least not new. So if any of you buys it new, and decide to get a different headphone, maybe sell it to me. Or Audio-Technica, if you're watching, come on now. To sum up, Audeze will shout at you if the mix is wrong. I would describe them as being analytical, technician, which, of course, not a bad thing at all. ADX7000 is the more musical of the two, maybe a bit more melodramatic. There is something that draws me to it. It speaks more to the soul than the brain, which I really like. Right, that's gonna do it for me. Please consider subscribing. See you guys in the comments below and in the next project.